Hey, what's up? So, I'm going to review The Breakfast Club, an American classic. Yeah, it's a teen coming of age comedy drama movie. The basic premise of the story is about 5 teenagers who all got detentions on a Saturday morning and how they turn this situation around. The movie has a tight cast of characters, comprising only 7. A rebellious guy named John, an athlete called Andrew, a brainy smart guy called Brian, a pretty rich girl, Clay, and weird lonely girl named Allison. We also got 2 adult characters, the tyrannical, overbearing vice principal and the school's cunning janitor. The movie opens with a scene in the library. As a punishment, the principal tells the students to write an essay about who they think they are and not to move until he tells them the otherwise. Obviously, not being so pleased with that punishment, the teenagers start to get all chatty, making snark comments about one another as soon as the principal leaves the room. John, being the most vocal among them, is very dismissive and arrogant, and he acts like a total jerk. This naturally pisses off the other students. On hearing the students, the principal returns to the library, and John immediately starts to get all argumentative with him as well, and refuses to follow any rules, which costs him another 8 more weeks of detentions. The interesting thing is, although the other teenagers were initially annoyed by John's arrogance, now they gang up on the principal to defend their peer. In the meantime, John, not being fazed at all by these extra detentions, continues doing his tricks and mischief and figures out how to sabotage the principal's morale. As the story moves on, we gradually see how teenagers can outmaneuver adults and their restrictive authority. While being left to their own devices, the janitor shows up. A seemingly innocuous guy is almost like an invisible man. Nobody pays any attention to. But his conversation with the students reveals he has learned how to use that invisibility cloak as a tool to his own advantage. While everybody is busy with their own thing in the school, he has become this cynical observer. He even calls himself the ears and the eyes of that place. In one scene, the janitor catches the principal going through some confidential files, and he asks for $50 for not giving him away. This shifts the power dynamic between those two, and how easily the rules of the game can switch. Bored and frustrated, the teenager decides to get John's marijuana stash. After smoking the marijuana, all that built up teenage angst unleashes itself. They start playing loud music and dancing wildly. Here, everything is out of control, and they go total berserk. After this bursts out, the movie's pace slows down, getting more and more introspective. This is where the inner workings of teenage and adult minds come into play. The movie splits into 2 mirroring scenes. One in the confidential files room, where the janitor and the principal are having a deep conversation, and another one in the library, where students are all sitting on the floor. At this point, everybody seems to be defeated. The game is shifting its gear towards a more poignant and psychological direction. It almost feels like a Freudian therapy session. The principal reveals his concerns and fears over his future, claiming that today's youth has changed. The janitor's response is that what the principal fails to see is he's the one who has changed, not the students. The teenagers, on the other hand, challenge one another by asking uncomfortable questions. And this opens up a whole new can of worms. As they reveal anecdotes about their upbringing, one by one, we realize how the parental dysfunctions and imposing expectation distort the self-image of a young person. And somehow they all are challenged by their parents and they struggle to navigate how to be an individual. In the final scene, they all seem to be relieved and become more connected after they have opened up. This experience allows them to act on their inner desires rather than being stuck in this stereotypical characters they put on to shield themselves from adult world. And in the end, the brainy guy is asked by the rest to write a letter for all. And he affirms all the labels tagged to them by writing, each one of us is a brain, an athlete, a basket case, a princess, and a criminal. Does that answer your question? I guess what adults cannot comprehend or fail to remember is that youth has so much power that cannot be contained. And doing so will eventually fail. And all those undesired consequences will inevitably manifest themselves in waves. Life is at its prime and strongest when you are young. The adult's life is bound by responsibility, so much so that it has lost its juvenile momentum, this wild energy. The young thirst for adventure and fun is now replaced by resentments and inertia. Life tends to propel itself forward. It's like an uphill game. And there is no doubt you need to move up if you still want that juvenile vitality. Because youth is self-involved and horny. It's like a strong current you cannot swim against. It will retaliate with mischief and troubles, and it will swallow you up.